Hello, my name is Tom Riley and I am a retired NASA engineer. I'm the person, not the bear. We are now at a critical stage of our climate crisis. I am here to beg you to stop poking the bear with your stick. If this particular bear puts up the fight expected, the result will be one of the greatest landmarks in all of human history, for good or bad. After that, I had better take just a minute to explain what I mean. I will need to start with a brief review. The latest climate data for the spring of 2019 is now available and it is quite jarring. Looking at the global atmospheric CO2, note the small upticks in the atmospheric CO2 data for the years 2016 and 2019, circled in red. If this additional CO2 in the atmosphere is caused by extra human activity, there is at least the possibility of our actions reversing the upward trend. If instead, our actions have now triggered natural forces that are taking over, then the process may have moved out of our control. Such balance points can toggle unexpectedly and are called tipping points. Approaching such a point can be thought of as poking a sleeping bear. This particular tipping point would trip when warm Arctic summers melt the ice, sequestering methane. The methane released one summer then lets the sun melt more ice the next. When this natural effect becomes more important than the human-supplied greenhouse gases, this tipping point will be well and truly tripped. The upticks for 2016 and 2019 look suspiciously like what one should expect at the very start of this tipping effect. The year 2016 was an exceptional year in that it was an intense El Niño, so it might just be a blip in the data. The year 2019 is a more normal year, so a repeat of the jump in the data is a major concern. The question now is whether or not this bump in the data is the marker for the beginning of the historic transition to a hothouse Earth or just an early warning. Let us look for a moment at the situation from the bear's point of view. Our climate crisis is like living on a small island with a bear. For most of both our histories, we have stayed out of each other's way. Recently, however, we have been taking over the bear's living space and trashing its space up. At some point, we either have to make accommodations to the bear so that we can both live on the island, or we will force us all into a big battle with the bear. In this case, once provoked, the bear becomes very powerful, dangerous, and unpredictable. This particular bear, the climate of the Earth, we cannot subdue outright. We simply do not have that power. In fact, we do not know how to live without the bear both being there and being benign. Either we now make accommodations with the bear, or the bear will change into something new and very dangerous. The 2019 spring data shows that although we have been making some accommodations, these accommodations are not enough. We are now poking the bear with a sharp stick. I cannot begin to express what a bad idea this is. Again, summarizing, over the eons, the Earth's climate has repeatedly moved between a few stable phases. Once in a phase, it can stay there for millions of years. One of these very stable phases is a hothouse Earth with temperatures 4 to 6 degrees Celsius above our normal and with little or no ice even at the poles. The Earth was in this phase for most of the 3 ages of the dinosaurs and for about half the time since. The much cooler glacial cycles that we have been in for most of our human evolution are simply uncommon in the long view. The amount of CO2 in our atmosphere is set by volcanism and mountain building. The rise of the Himalayan mountains seems to be what moved us to the current glacial cycles. This spring, the CO2 in Earth's atmosphere measured 411.26 parts per million. Before the Industrial Revolution, it measured about 300 parts per million, which is typical for glacial cycles. Estimates of the CO2 atmospheric concentration during a hothouse phase are up to 1,200 parts per million, 4 times higher than typical for glacial cycles. The difference is comparable to the amount of CO2 that would be generated by the release of the methane currently trapped in permafrost and in methane hydrate in shallow northern seas. Earth CO2 may hide for very long periods in many places, but it does not go away completely. Methane, CH4, itself is a strong greenhouse gas, up to 74 times as bad as CO2, but once loose in the atmosphere, it oxidizes to CO2 and water in about 12 years. This makes it the shock troops of the greenhouse gases, the one to watch for rapid effects. The global map of temperatures for the spring of 2019 again shows the highest increases in the Arctic. In fact, for this spring, the warmest areas match very well the areas where the methane is now immobile. The question then is, has our planet warmed enough to release its stored methane without farther help from humans? Just how hard have we already poked this bear? It is too early to tell for sure, but a check of the methane in the atmosphere shows it on a steady rise. This reinforces our concern. It does take an enormous amount of energy to melt the ice in which the methane is currently trapped. This means that there is a limit to how much can come out in any one season, and that the chance of it coming out all at once is very small. The tipping point will come when the amount of greenhouse gas cooked out in each summer ensures that even more will come out the next. We now appear to be on the verge of losing our opportunity for any control of Earth's climate. The climate transition may be about to switch to autopilot and will now cook out its methane over hundreds of years. The chance of transition to a hothouse Earth is often alarmingly described as a climate catastrophe, and no planning to meet it is now even contemplated, let alone seriously considered. This is a defeatist attitude. I for one am not going down without a fight. Also, note that all human civilizations have arisen during warm interglacial periods. We know how to use a little heat. Even if the chance of triggering the transition is small, and currently we have no idea what the chances really are, we need a plan. For now, it will be a standby plan for a sustainable human civilization on a hothouse Earth. You could call it learning to live with an angry and now wide-awake bear. It is possible, in fact quite likely, that various militaries around the world have made just such plans, but, if they have kept them secret for security reasons. I do not know of anyone publicly taking on this planning process. Even so, there do appear to be not one but two default plans hiding in the shadows. The first approach I will call the people plan. It features continuing our efforts to live sustainably with all Earth systems while facing up to many new climate problems. In short, we work harder at building a sustainable society while making a real effort to address the problems of the billions of people hurt by climate change. This plan is based on a long history of ethical action. The second approach I call the tribal plan. It features established powers denying climate change as long as they can, then using their power to be sure that their tribe prospers, and to hell with everybody else. This plan calls for the continued use of fossil fuels for now. Then if the transition triggers, this plan will rely on the argument that these resources are needed badly in the crisis and that we are by then well past the point that cutting back will do any good. The tribal plan simply does not consider ethics at all. At present most people, especially the deniers, do not actually subscribe to either plan. They simply have not given the climate crisis any consideration at all. Most climate activists are in line for the people plan. The worse things get, the more they will redouble their efforts. Currently the tribal plan is being promoted quietly in a number of ways by those with the most wealth to lose. For example, Russia and the Middle East oil-rich countries are delaying or giving only lip service to carbon reduction. Russia joined the Paris Accords and then did nothing to reach them. These powerful people have a big problem. Under the people plan, their primary resource becomes valueless, and so they must fight to do something else, anything else. The Russians, for example, are in action on the idea that the Earth warming of up to 2°C will open up vast new lands and northern shipping lanes for them. The limit of their farmland will shift well to the north. Vast new offshore gas fields will become exploitable. They will then be king of the world again. The Trump administration is following a significant number of the elements of the tribal plan. The administration's actions include withdrawal from the Paris Accords, whipping up xenophobia, supporting fossil fuel production, and building a wall on the southern border. We do not need a southern wall, unless the situation in Central America gets truly bad indeed, and then we need a wall only if the USA is under the tribal plan. It is unlikely that President Trump has a sophisticated understanding of these problems. It is far more likely that our president is following suggestions made by his supporters, including the Russians. A few of these supporters do have a deep understanding of the situation. That said, the only ethical plan for us to follow is the people plan. It is the only plan we can now put forward in good conscience. Our little group is firmly committed to the people plan and to stopping bear poking altogether. Our current projects show our recent efforts to address elements of our climate crisis, which we plan to continue. Our little group, the Big Moon Dig, is working on innovative ideas for a grassroots space program and to design ways to aid young people in finding their life's work that will help address our climate crisis. We have a new book out, see link below, which uses short stories as an educational aid, narrative thinking and storytelling for problem solving in science education. We have also written a TV or web production screenplay, Summer is Coming. It is about young people in a virtual family, who are faced with our climate crisis and unsure of themselves, get into action, and, with the help of an artificial intelligence, mold their life's work to be of real value in our challenging future. Please contact us, contact information below, if you are interested in any of these projects or have ideas on a society for a sustainable hothouse Earth. Enjoy, JanetA and Tom Riley, The Big Moon Dig.